Hey there, before you close your eyes tonight, let's take a little trip into the strange and magical world of paradoxes. These are ideas that twist your mind in the best way. They make no sense and perfect sense at the same time, and somehow they help you see life more clearly. They're not here to wake you up, they're here to gently open your mind and help you drift off, with wonder, not worry. So get comfy, relax your body, and let these quiet little truths guide you into sleep. Let's begin. 1. The lost self paradox. The more you try to find yourself, the more lost you feel. And that's the quiet ache behind so many of our questions. You start searching by peeling back layers, changing your look, your lifestyle, your environment, hoping that one of these shifts will reveal the real you. But instead of clarity, you get confusion. Instead of answers, you end up with more versions of yourself than you started with. And here's why. The self isn't something buried, waiting to be discovered like an ancient treasure. The self is always in motion, always becoming, always unfolding. It isn't a fixed definition or a single identity, it's a process. And when you approach it like a destination, you lose sight of what it actually is. The paradox is that by chasing the self, you create a false distance between who you are and who you think you need to be. The more you seek, the more you reinforce the idea that you are incomplete, that you are missing. But you're not missing, you're just evolving. Your true self is not hiding in some future version of you. It's right here, in the unnoticed moments, when you're not performing. It's in your instincts, your kindness, your wonder. It's in how you laugh when no one's watching, how you rest when you're not being productive. It's in the pauses, the stillness, the ordinary things. The more you try to define yourself, the more you cage yourself in. And yet, when you stop trying to find yourself so hard, when you simply live, show up, breathe, and respond, you start to feel grounded, not because you arrived somewhere, but because you finally realized you never left. 2. Selfless becoming. You become yourself by forgetting yourself, and that sounds impossible until you experience it. Picture the moments when you were so immersed in something that you forgot you existed. You weren't watching yourself from the outside, you weren't asking if it looked good, sounded right, made sense. You were just in it, fully alive. That's where your real self lives, not in self-examination, but in self-forgetting. When you're laughing uncontrollably, when you're helping someone and not counting the cost, when you're dancing badly and not caring who sees. In those moments, you are not performing a self, you are being. You're not crafting a version, you're expressing a truth. And here's where the paradox sharpens. The more we focus on ourselves, the more distant we grow from what's authentic. We become mirrors, reflecting expectations, building identities like portfolios, curating our personalities like profiles. But the soul doesn't need a profile, it needs presence, and presence doesn't come from asking who am I, it comes from forgetting to ask at all. When you forget yourself, your ego softens, your defenses drop, and something quiet rises up, something calm and steady and sincere. You become porous, open to life, to beauty, to others, to meaning. And in that openness, you start to recognize yourself, not as a fixed answer, but as a living question. When you forget yourself, you make space for what's true, not because you vanished, but because you stopped clinging and started being. In a world that demands we prove ourselves constantly, sometimes the most radical act is to forget yourself and let the real you flow through, unnoticed, real, not because you named it, but because you lived it. 3. Peaceful surrender. You find peace, not by seeking it, but by letting go of the need for it. And that's where the paradox turns into a doorway. You see, peace isn't something you can chase with intensity or grasp with strategy. It's not a finish line, it's not an item on your to-do list. The harder you chase it, the more it slips away. Like trying to calm a pond by splashing in it. You sit down to meditate, and then ask, Am I calm yet? And in that very moment, the stillness runs from you. Peace is allergic to effort. It doesn't respond to force or demand. It unfolds naturally when the need to control fades, when you stop needing the moment to be any different than it is, when you stop resisting life. Peace arises, not because you got better at calming down, but because you stopped trying to rearrange everything. It's like falling asleep. You don't make it happen, you allow it, you create the space for it to arrive. The paradox is that by surrendering your pursuit, you create the very conditions for peace to enter. It's not loud, it's not dazzling, it arrives in a whisper, a breath, a pause between thoughts. It happens when you say, I don't need to figure it all out, I don't need to be perfect, I can just be. And in that surrender, something soft unfolds. It's not about stopping the waves, it's about learning to float among them. The moment you let go, peace sneaks in, gentle, steady, full, and real, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped chasing and let it come to you. For freedom in limits. To be truly free, you must accept limitations. And that sounds like a contradiction, because we've been told freedom means no boundaries, no rules, just open skies and endless choices. But too many choices can become a prison of their own. When everything is possible, nothing feels solid, nothing feels chosen, and freedom starts to collapse under its own weight, like a song with no rhythm, or a painting with no frame. Limits give freedom shape, form, and meaning. Think of a writer facing a blank page, unlimited words at their disposal, yet it's the structure of form, the rules of rhythm, the boundaries of a sonnet that give their ideas power, or a dancer in a room with no floor, nothing to push against, no edge to spin near. True movement needs resistance, true creativity needs a container, and true freedom needs some edge, a boundary, a rhythm. Otherwise you're not free, you're lost. When you accept limitations, you learn how to work within them, how to stretch inside them, how to play on the edges, how to bend the rules just enough to stay creative, yet grounded. And that's when the paradox blooms, because limitation isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the channel for it. It focuses you, sharpens you, gives your choices shape. It helps you distinguish what matters from what doesn't. The bird needs the wind, not just to challenge it, but to lift it. The kite needs the string, not to restrict it, but to let it soar. And you need your limits, not to hold you back, but to help you fly, with purpose, with clarity, with grace. 5. Power in powerlessness. You are most powerful when you feel powerless, but act anyway, and that's not easy to accept, because power is supposed to look strong, sound confident, feel like control. But real power often arises in the quietest moments, when you have nothing to lean on, no applause, no certainty, no safety net, just a trembling heart, and the choice to move forward anyway. Think of the person who speaks up, even though their voice shakes. Think of the parent who gets up, again and again, when the exhaustion could crush them. Think of the moment you show kindness, when your own heart feels broken, when you stand your ground, not because you feel invincible, but because something inside you whispers, go on. There is no spotlight in these scenes, no cheering crowd, but the power is real, and it is fierce, because it comes not from force, but from truth. It comes from alignment, from knowing something matters more than your fear, more than your doubt. It comes from stepping forward, even when your knees tremble, when you feel powerless, and still act. You tap into something deeper, something that can't be taken from you, something untouched by outcome or recognition. And that's where real power lives, not in domination, but in quiet defiance, not in being untouchable, but in being real, in being human, in being willing to keep moving, even through the fog, even when the path is unclear. You rise, not because it's easy, but because your heart decided to, and in that rise, however small, You become something unbreakable, not because you didn't fall, but because you kept standing up. 6. Identity trap. The more you cling to your identity, the more fragile it becomes. And that's the strange thing about labels. The tighter you hold them, the more brittle they feel. We all want to know who we are, to feel rooted, understood, defined. But identity isn't supposed to be a cage, it's supposed to be a mirror. And mirrors don't work when you press your face against them. The closer you lean in, the more distorted it gets. The more attached you become to being a certain kind of person, the more pressure you feel to perform it, to defend it, to protect it, to never let it slip. And slowly, the identity you built to feel strong starts to feel like glass, ready to shatter with every challenge, every contradiction, every mistake. The paradox is that real strength comes not from holding your identity tightly, but from holding it lightly, knowing who you are, and also knowing you are more than that. You are 1,000 things, and also none of them. You are the dancer and the silence. Between the music, the roles you play and the space beneath them, you can change your mind, change your voice, change your path, and still be you. When you let go of the need to always be consistent, to always fit the label, you become more fluid, more resilient, more whole. Because identity isn't meant to trap you, it's meant to reflect you, and reflections shift with the light. In that space, your identity doesn't vanish, it breathes, it expands, it evolves, and it becomes a place to return to, not a prison to stay in. 7. Authenticity illusion. You're most authentic when you stop trying to be authentic, and that's the trick. Because the moment you try to be real, you start performing, you measure your words, you adjust your behavior, you filter your feelings through the lens of what authenticity is supposed to look like. And the irony is, the more effort you put into appearing authentic, the further you drift from your natural self. Realness isn't a look, or a vibe, or a checklist of traits. It's what shows up when you're not watching yourself, when you're not curating, not adjusting, not trying to impress. Think of the times when you forgot yourself completely, when you laughed without checking if it was the right time, when you said something true without rehearsing, when you moved like nobody was watching. That was the real you, not because you aimed for it, but because you let go. Trying to be authentic creates a pressure, a role to perform. But you can't perform your way into sincerity, you have to relax into it. And that's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be authentic, you start being it. Authenticity is not a performance, it's a presence. It's not about being raw all the time, or sharing everything, or never being wrong. It's about being aligned. It's about not betraying yourself to win acceptance. It's showing up honestly, even if it's messy. It's letting your guard down, not to be edgy or impressive, but because you have nothing to prove. When you let go of trying to control how real you seem, what emerges is something deeper, more grounded, more free. You stop chasing authenticity and start embodying it. 8. Change through acceptance. You can't change until you accept yourself exactly as you are, and that sounds backwards, because we think growth starts with dissatisfaction. We think we need to push, fix, and correct in order to evolve. So we stare at our flaws, our failures, our insecurities, convinced they're the barrier, and we make a deal with ourselves. I'll love me once I'm better, once I'm improved, once I'm perfect. But here's the trap. That mindset makes self-acceptance conditional, and that condition becomes a cage. The paradox is, change actually begins with saying, this is who I am, right now, and even in this moment, I'm worthy of love, of care, of peace, because shame doesn't motivate transformation, it suffocates it. When you see yourself through shame, you're always hiding, performing, protecting. But when you meet yourself with kindness, when you say I see you, even here, even now, something deep within you begins to loosen. The tight grip of fear and self-judgment begins to fall away, and in that softening, space opens up, space for healing, for exploration, for breath. Real change happens not because you hated yourself into it, but because you loved yourself into more possibility. And that's what makes the transformation lasting. It's rooted in truth, not in rejection. You change because you've accepted the truth of who you are, and from there, you move freely, not from pressure, but from compassion. 9. Healing by releasing. Healing begins when you stop needing to be healed, because the more you chase healing, the more you affirm the idea that you're broken, and that belief becomes the very thing that keeps you stuck. It keeps you looking at yourself like a problem to be solved, rather than a person to be loved. True healing doesn't come from fixing yourself like a broken machine. It comes from befriending your pain, making space for it, letting it speak, and listening without judgment. When you stop trying to erase your wounds and instead honor them, listen to them, thank them for what they taught you, they begin to loosen their grip, not because they disappear, but because they no longer define you. Healing is not about erasing the past, it's about integrating it, learning to carry your story without letting it weigh you down. You become whole, not by returning to who you were, but by embracing who you are now, scarred, soft, resilient. When you stop measuring your worth by how unhurt you are, and instead measure your growth by how gently you treat your wounds, something deep inside begins to settle. Healing sneaks in quietly, not as a destination, but as a returning to self, to presence, to peace. It's not a race, it's not a finish line, it's a deep exhale, a quiet knowing that you are already enough, not once you're healed, but even in the healing. 10. Discomfort growth. To grow, you must be okay with discomfort, and that's where most people stop, because growth sounds exciting, but discomfort doesn't. Discomfort is inconvenient, it's uncomfortable by design, it's the tightness in your chest before a hard conversation, the awkward silence after sharing something vulnerable, the sting of rejection, the fatigue after trying and not quite succeeding. But here's the truth, discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It's the evidence you're expanding, because every time you step outside what's familiar, you step into possibility, into stretch, into change. It's like a muscle tearing slightly to grow stronger. It hurts, it resists, but it rebuilds you. This is where your future is hiding, in the challenge, in the stretch, in the silence and struggle. And that's the paradox. The very thing we avoid is where the becoming happens. When you step into discomfort with courage and stay there with patience, you don't just learn new skills, you learn who you are and what you're capable of. Growth is not always a leap. Sometimes it's a quiet step into a space that scares you. Sometimes it's staying put when you want to run. Sometimes it's trying again when your heart's still sore. You evolve not by avoiding the edge, but by dancing with it, sitting with it, breathing through it. Growth and discomfort are partners, not enemies. And the sooner you welcome discomfort, the sooner you meet your own potential. 11. Control reversal. The more you try to control life, the more it controls you. And that's the frustrating part. Because control feels like safety, like clarity, like power. So we tighten our grip, micromanage our days, overanalyze our relationships, obsess over plans and timelines, trying to predict the future, trying to protect ourselves from chaos. We think that if we just organize enough, anticipate enough, we can shield ourselves from disappointment. But life doesn't follow blueprints, it laughs at fixed expectations, it bends, shifts, surprises. And the more you try to wrestle it into submission, the more tangled you become, the harder you squeeze, the more things slip through your fingers, and suddenly, the control you thought would set you free becomes the very thing that traps you. And here's the paradox. The act of controlling turns you into the controlled. You become reactive, anxious, tense, constantly managing every ripple like it's a wave, constantly bracing for the next storm. But when you let go, something strange happens. Not failure, not collapse, but space. And into that space comes breath, movement, possibility. things begin to move again, not how you planned, but how they were meant to. Life softens around you, and you soften with it, and you begin to see that peace isn't found in perfect control, but in humble cooperation, in presence, in surrender. Life becomes a dance, not a war. And you stop being the puppeteer, pulling strings, and start being the partner. Listening, adapting, allowing, trusting the rhythm. And in that surrender, you find the deepest kind of freedom, not because you bent life to your will, but because you finally flowed with it, finally trusted it to carry you, and it did. 12. Letting go to lead. Letting go is the only way to take control, and that sounds upside down, because letting go feels like giving up, like falling behind, like losing power. But letting go isn't passive, it's active surrender, it's courage in motion, it's the wisdom to recognize what's not in your hands, and the strength to focus on what is. We often chase control because we're afraid of loss, of uncertainty, of not being enough. But clinging tighter doesn't create certainty, it just creates tension, stress, and resistance. We try to predict every outcome, prepare for every failure, but life isn't a system to be hacked, it's a river to be moved with. Letting go is not resignation, it's recalibration, it's stepping back to see the bigger picture, it's choosing to pause, to reflect, to respond with intention. It's saying, I can't force this, but I can choose how I show up for it. I can choose grace, patience, honesty. I can choose not to be consumed, not to be thrown around by every wave. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care more wisely, more deeply, with boundaries and presence. It means you trust the timing, the unfolding, the space in between. When you let go, you make room for intuition, for presence, for movement, for mystery. You stop reacting and start responding, with clarity, with steadiness, with heart. And that's the paradox. By releasing your grip, you get your power back. Not power over everything, but power over your mind, your mood, your meaning. And that's where true leadership begins. In presence, not pressure, in listening, not forcing. Not everything is yours to fix, but how you show up, how you hold yourself in the unknown, how you love, choose, wait, speak, that is yours, always. 13. Strength of surrender. Surrender is a form of strength, not weakness, and that's what's hardest to believe, because surrender feels like defeat, like folding, like failure. We're taught that strength means pushing through, taking control, standing tall no matter what. But true surrender is none of that, and yet all of that. It's not about collapsing, it's about choosing to release, it's about saying, I trust something larger than my fear, than my need to control. It's about listening to the deeper wisdom that says, not everything needs to be wrestled into shape. Some things need to be witnessed, accepted, held gently. It's looking reality in the eye and saying, I accept this moment as it is. I won't waste my strength resisting what's already here. Instead, I'll use that energy to respond with wisdom, with heart, with grace. Surrender isn't soft, it's fierce, it's grounded, it's not passivity, it's participation without panic. It takes courage to stop fighting the tide, to float, to listen, to adapt, to let go of your timetable and expectations and meet life where it actually is. And in that quiet power, something shifts. You stop burning yourself out trying to fix everything, and start finding clarity, peace, insight. Sometimes surrender means letting go of a dream, or a story, or a plan you thought you needed. And sometimes it means leaning in, trusting life to carry you forward when you're too tired to paddle. Surrender is not giving up. It's giving over, not in defeat, but in faith, in resilience, in deep, grounded strength that doesn't shout, but hums, steady and true. It's not weakness, It's what allows you to rise again, to breathe again, to move again from the core. 14. Clarity in surrender. Control is an illusion, surrender is clarity, and that sounds like a contradiction, because we're taught that control brings order, direction, purpose. We think if we can just hold everything tightly enough, plan well enough, micromanage every detail, then we can prevent disappointment, avoid chaos, and guarantee happiness. We believe that control gives us power, but more often, it gives us pressure to maintain, to monitor, to manage, and that pressure builds, it narrows your world, limits your imagination, puts you in constant reaction mode, and you begin to operate from a place of fear of messing up, fear of letting go, fear of uncertainty. Your vision gets blurry, clouded by perfectionism and the exhausting need to have everything figured out. And the irony is, the more you try to see clearly through control, the more distorted your view becomes. Surrender doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop clinging. It means you loosen your grip, stop gripping. Out comes like lifelines, and in that release, something powerful happens. Everything softens, the fog lifts, your breath deepens, and with that breath comes vision, clarity, calm. You start seeing what's really yours to carry and what never was. You begin to trust life again, not because it became predictable, but because you're no longer afraid of the unknown. Surrender clears the static, dissolves the illusion, reveals the truth beneath your striving. It brings you back to presence, to peace, to purpose. Peace was never hiding behind more effort. It was behind your resistance to let go. Surrender doesn't weaken you, it awakens you. And in that awakening, you find clarity, the kind that comes not from gripping tighter, but from finally, bravely letting go. 15. Grip and slip. The tighter you grip, the more things slip through your fingers, and that's the bitter irony of fear. When we're scared of losing something, we cling, we tighten, we grip hard, thinking we're protecting what we love. But what we often do is choke it. We smother relationships, we overwork passions, we obsess over control and forget connection. We try to freeze time, control emotion, capture the moment, and in doing so, we destroy the very magic we're trying to preserve. We hold on so tightly that we squeeze the life out of what was once free and beautiful. We try to possess what was meant to be experienced, to fix what was meant to evolve, to own what was meant to dance beside us. And in our fear of losing, we create the very conditions for loss. The more force you use, the more resistance you create. The more you hold something too tightly, the more fragile it becomes, the more brittle it gets under the weight of your expectations. And in trying to keep everything close, you push it away, not because you stopped loving it, but because love suffocates without space, without breath, without trust. Letting go doesn't mean apathy, it means respect, it means trust, it means knowing that love and life can't be held with fists, only with open hands. Letting go means giving space to grow, to breathe, to be. It means whispering, I love this enough to let it move, change, shift, and find its own way. It means saying, I trust this enough to release it, and if it returns, it will be not because I forced it, but because it chose to. That's the paradox. What we release returns with more life, more clarity, more truth than we ever imagined. 16. Servant leadership. You lead better when you serve, and that feels backward in a world that glorifies authority, dominance, and status. But the truth is, real leadership is rooted in humility, in empathy, in presence. It's not about commanding attention, it's about earning trust. And you don't earn trust through power, you earn it through service, through showing up, through being willing to stand beside rather than above. The leader who listens, who supports, who uplifts, leads deeper, stronger, longer, because their strength doesn't come from fear, but from alignment, from integrity. Service is not weakness, it's the highest form of strength. It's the quiet courage to put others first, not to shrink yourself. but to raise the collective, to recognize that leadership isn't about being the loudest in the room, but about creating space where everyone else can speak. When people feel seen, heard, valued, and empowered, they follow not out of fear, but out of genuine respect, because they trust you, not for your image, but for your impact. Servant leadership means your ego takes a step back so your vision can step forward. It means doing the unglamorous work, the work behind the scenes, the small consistent actions that build a foundation of safety and strength for others. It's not about being less, it's about bringing more of your courage, more of your kindness, more of your presence to others, and in doing so, you lead not from above, but from within. And that's the kind of leadership that lasts. 17. The I don't know key. Saying I don't know is the first step to true wisdom, and that feels counterintuitive in a world that worships certainty. We're trained from early on to have answers, to look sure of ourselves, to avoid the embarrassment of admitting confusion. But here's the truth: pretending to know blinds you. It builds a wall between you and discovery. It keeps you stuck in old beliefs, outdated assumptions. It turns conversations into competitions instead of collaborations. Real wisdom doesn't come from always being right. It comes from the courage to say, I don't know, and mean it. Because I don't know isn't the end of knowledge, it's the beginning of it. It invites curiosity. It invites humility. It says, there's something I can learn here. It opens doors you didn't know were there. When you say, I don't know, you give yourself permission to grow, to evolve, to be changed. It makes you a better listener, a better friend, a better leader. The ego wants to prove, to impress, to defend its territory, but wisdom wants to understand, to expand, to connect. The one who always needs to be right builds walls around their mind, but the one who says, I don't know, let's explore, keeps growing, keeps listening, keeps deepening. Saying I don't know is an act of strength, not weakness. It's how breakthroughs happen. It's how relationships deepen. It's how truth gets through. It's not ignorance, it's honesty. And from that honesty, real insight begins. 18. Lost to find. Only by admitting you're lost can you find direction. And that's the paradox that humbles us all. We spend so much of our energy trying to appear like we've got it together, wearing masks of certainty, walking paths we're unsure of just to keep up the illusion of forward motion. But pretending you're not lost doesn't get you found. It keeps you stuck, looping through the same places, repeating the same thoughts. Honesty breaks the cycle. There's real power in pausing, in sitting down on the roadside of your life and saying, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing. And that vulnerability doesn't make you weak, it makes you reachable, because that's when clarity can actually reach you. That's when people show up with maps, when signs start to appear, not because they suddenly appeared, but because you finally stopped pretending you didn't need them. When you stop faking certainty, you open the door to guidance, to truth, to clarity, to new direction. Admitting you're lost creates space for direction to arrive. It softens the noise of your overthinking and makes room for the wisdom you've been too proud to hear. Direction doesn't come from blindly moving forward. It comes from stillness, from honesty, from saying, I don't have it figured out, but I'm open to learning, open to guidance, open to change. And that's where the journey truly begins, not from pretending to know, but from the quiet, brave act of admitting you don't. 19. Power in detachment. You gain power by not needing it, and that's the quiet revolution, the paradox that flips the entire narrative we've been sold about success and influence. We grow up believing that power is something external, something to chase, something to seize or earn through competition, through being louder, tougher, more dominant. We think it's in the corner office, the bigger title, the louder voice in the room. But real power isn't about taking up more space. It's about being so grounded that you don't need to. Real power is inner stillness, a presence that doesn't demand attention but naturally draws it. It's not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. And that mastery doesn't come from clinging, it comes from detachment, from letting go of the need to prove, impress, or dominate. It comes from knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer need external affirmation to confirm it. The less you chase approval, the more rooted you become, the more you let go of needing power. The more powerful you become, people feel that kind of strength, they respect it, they are drawn to it, because it's not manipulative, it's magnetic. You're not trying to take energy, you're holding it, containing it, radiating it. That's real strength. It's the quiet confidence that comes from alignment, from authenticity, from knowing that your value doesn't come from status, but from essence. And in that detachment, you become unshakable. Not because you control everything, but because you know. Longer need to. 20 Freedom by discipline. Discipline leads to freedom, and that sounds like a contradiction, because discipline is structure, rules, routine, and freedom is choice, flow, spontaneity. At first glance, they seem like opposites, like one limits while the other liberates. But the deeper truth is this: without discipline, freedom collapses under its own weight. It becomes chaos, scattered energy, wasted potential. You may have the freedom to do anything, but without discipline, you don't follow through on anything. Discipline is what gives form to freedom. It's the invisible architecture that holds your life together. It's the consistent rhythm that frees you from being ruled by impulse, by distraction, by emotion. When you cultivate discipline, you build trust with yourself. You become someone who follows through, who shows up, who does the work even when it's uncomfortable, and that consistency compounds. It builds confidence, integrity, momentum. And that's what unlocks true freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want, but the freedom to live a life aligned with your values, your goals, your truth. Discipline is not a prison, it's the path to expansion, to growth, to purpose. It's the structure that allows your creativity to flourish, your ideas to manifest, your dreams to take shape. Without it, freedom is just an illusion. With it, freedom becomes a lived reality. The paradox is simple: the more you commit to your path, the more the path opens to you, the more structure you embrace, the more space you feel. Discipline doesn't cage your spirit, it directs it, focuses it, and ultimately liberates it. 21 Wisdom Gap. The wiser you get, the more you realize how little you know, and that's the quiet, humbling truth behind all deep learning. At first, knowledge feels like light, like power, like control. You begin stacking facts, collecting answers, thinking you're building a fortress of understanding. And for a while, it feels solid. You feel smart, even superior. But then something shifts, something subtle and life-altering. The more you learn, the more you see the edges, the unknowns, the vastness of what lies beyond what you know. You begin to see how small your island of certainty is, surrounded by an ocean of mystery. Every answer you find leads to more questions, more nuance, more contradiction. And you start to realize that wisdom isn't a place you arrive, it's a path you walk. Wisdom is movement, not possession. The truly wise don't boast what they know, they marvel at what they've yet to discover. They understand that knowledge can illuminate, but also blind, if you mistake it for completeness. Wisdom invites a deeper kind of humility, one that softens your certainty and opens your spirit to wonder. It teaches you to let go of needing to be right, needing to dominate a conversation or win an argument. It invites you to ask better questions, deeper ones, ones that don't seek control, but connection. Wisdom is not the loudest voice in the room, it's the most attentive one, the one willing to say, "I'm still learning, still listening, still curious." It's the strength to stand in mystery and not flinch, to look at the vastness of existence and feel awe, not anxiety. The wiser you become, the more you release the illusion of mastery, and the more you trust the unfolding of truth as it comes, slowly, quietly, moment by moment. 22 Open mind, firm roots. The more open your mind, the more stable your beliefs become, and that sounds backward, especially in a culture where being firm, unwavering, and loud is mistaken for being strong. But here's the truth: When you're rigid, closed, and defensive, you're fragile. Your ideas are brittle, easily threatened by anything new, anything unfamiliar, and in that state, you're not holding beliefs, you're being held hostage by them. True stability doesn't come from refusal to change, it comes from the confidence to explore. When you're open, curious, willing to engage with different perspectives, you don't lose your footing, you strengthen it. Your beliefs become tested, shaped, not weakened but purified, and in that process, they either deepen or dissolve into something more authentic, more aligned, more true to who you are now, not just who you were when the belief was first formed. Real conviction isn't loud or stubborn, it's grounded. It doesn't need to shout to be heard, it doesn't need to fight to be valid, it's flexible, which makes it resilient. It bends, but it doesn't break. It listens, learns, evolves, and yet holds firm in the places that matter most, not out of pride, but out of clarity. An open mind isn't emptiness, it's depth. It's the kind of mind that invites the world in, filters it through wisdom, and returns something better, more compassionate, more thoughtful, more useful. And that's the paradox. The more open you are to being changed, the more solid you become in what actually matters. 23. Certainty illusion. Certainty is often a sign of ignorance, and that's the uncomfortable truth. Because certainty feels good, it feels secure. It gives the illusion of control in a world that is chaotic and often unpredictable. We cling to it like a shield, thinking it protects us from confusion. But in reality, it can blind us to what lies beneath the surface. Real understanding doesn't bring rigidity, it brings nuance, complexity, contradiction, and humility. It reminds you that the world isn't made of clean lines and easy answers. The more deeply you know something, the more you become aware of all the things that don't quite fit, that challenge your assumptions, that resist simple explanation. True knowledge is like peeling an onion. Each layer you uncover reveals more depth, more questions, and more mystery. Certainty, on the other hand, shuts that down. It says, I already know, and in doing so, it stops listening, stops evolving. That's why the most dogmatic voices, the ones who scream the loudest about what they believe, are often masking the deepest fear that they could be wrong. True intelligence doesn't need to dominate, it doesn't need to prove, it just observes, listens, asks, considers. It recognizes the limits of its own understanding and stays open to being corrected, being refined, being changed. Certainty closes the door, humility keeps it open. And that open door is where real learning, real connection, and real transformation happen. True wisdom isn't about having all the answers, it's about learning to live with better questions. 24. Mind change mastery. Real intelligence lies in the ability to change your mind. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, stubbornly defending the idea that you can fly, and when someone hands you a parachute, you refuse because it wasn't your idea. That's what many people do with beliefs. We think being smart means never being wrong. But true intelligence means knowing when we are. We're taught to double down to protect our ego, but the brave ones, the truly sharp minds, they pivot, they learn, they update their views. Changing your mind is not weakness, it's evolution. It's how science works, how art grows, how humanity progresses. Think of it like software updates. Your brain is your operating system, and new experiences are the patches. Without them, you're stuck with bugs, old logic, outdated thinking. But when you're willing to pause, examine, and say, wait, maybe I was wrong, you unlock a higher version of yourself. You stop worshipping your past self and start honoring your future self. It's not about flip-flopping, it's about flowing. Intelligence is fluid, like water. It doesn't break when it bends, it adapts. You can cling to being right, or you can reach for being better. The paradox is that the more intelligent you become, the less attached you are to your own ideas because you've seen how fragile they are. So, if someone shows you a better way, don't resist. Be curious. Real intelligence is not about how much you know, but how quickly you're willing to grow. 25 Infinite Library. The more you read, the more you realize you've read nothing. Step into a giant library with endless shelves stretching into the horizon, and pick up a book, then another, then another. Every page you read opens 10 more doors to 10 more rooms full of books you never knew existed, and suddenly what began as curiosity becomes humility. That's the paradox of knowledge. The more you learn, the more you see what you don't know. Reading expands the mind, but it also exposes its limits. It's like climbing a mountain only to discover you're standing at the base of an even taller one. The illusion of mastery fades, and you begin to see learning as a journey, not a destination. The ancient Greeks called it aporia, that moment when the pursuit of understanding brings you face to face with mystery. It's not discouraging, it's beautiful, because it shows that knowledge is infinite, and you're part of something larger than yourself. The more books you read, the more questions you ask, the more certainty becomes a stranger. You realize every expert is still a student, every library a lighthouse in a fog of unknowing. You become softer, more curious, less arrogant. Reading doesn't just fill you up, it opens you up. And here's the magic. The moment you say, "I don't know," becomes the moment your mind truly ignites, because that's where wonder lives, and wonder is the doorway to wisdom. 26 Silent Wisdom. Knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. Imagine walking into a room full of voices, everyone shouting their facts, their degrees, their data, each trying to win the spotlight. Then, in the corner, sits someone silent, watching, hearing, taking it all in, and when they finally speak, it lands like thunder in a quiet valley. That's the paradox. Knowledge wants to be heard, but wisdom waits. Knowledge fills the air with sound, but wisdom holds the silence that lets truth echo deeper. Knowledge is fast, it wants to answer, solve, correct. Wisdom is slow, it wants to observe, absorb, reflect. You can have knowledge without understanding, but you can't have wisdom without patience. Think of a wise elder. They rarely interrupt, rarely argue, because they're not playing a game of being right, they're dancing with reality. They've seen enough to know that most noise is ego, most arguments are mirrors, and most truths are subtle. In a world obsessed with broadcasting, wisdom hides in listening. It hears not just words, but tones, silences, motives. It reads the room, the heart, the space between the lines. Knowledge asks, "What do I know?" Wisdom asks, "What am I missing?" And in that gap, true insight is born, because only when we stop talking do we start hearing the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. So, if you seek wisdom, don't just add more words, learn to subtract, listen longer, and let silence do the heavy lifting. 27 Joke of Truth. Sometimes, the deepest truth is hidden in a joke. You laugh, and then you pause, wait, did that just cut deeper than expected? That's the genius of humor. It wears a mask of silliness, but often hides a blade of truth. Jokes disarm the ego, they slip past defenses, they smuggle uncomfortable realities into the heart, disguised as entertainment. Comedians are modern philosophers, court jesters with X-ray vision, who say what no one else dares, but once you laugh, the truth can't be denied. Think of satire, of sarcasm, of irony, each is a Trojan horse for wisdom. We laugh at things that feel real because they are real, exposed just enough to sting but softened with absurdity. A joke can call out hypocrisy, question authority, reveal contradictions in society, and still have everyone smiling. It's no accident that truth-tellers throughout history were often funny. It's because humor creates distance, and distance allows us to see clearly. A joke says what a lecture can't. It's sneaky, precise, sometimes crude, sometimes cruel, but always illuminating. We joke about politics, religion, death, because those are the things we're afraid to face head-on. And paradoxically, the more we laugh, the more we understand. So, the next time you hear a joke that makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself, what truth is hiding behind the punchline? Because the biggest laughs often come from the deepest truths, whispered with a wink and a smile. 28. Elegant simplicity. Simplicity doesn't mean lack, it means clarity. It's not the absence of detail, but the presence of only what matters. In a world obsessed with more, the real genius is in less. The artist who paints with fewer strokes, the speaker who moves hearts with fewer words, the designer who removes clutter until only beauty remains. Simplicity whispers where complexity shouts, and yet it speaks louder, it feels cleaner, stronger, more timeless. That's the paradox. The simpler something is, the more refined it must be. You can't fake simplicity, you earn it by understanding the whole so deeply that you know exactly what can go and exactly what must stay. When Leonardo da Vinci said simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, he wasn't just talking about art, he was talking about life. Wisdom is simple, not because it's easy, but because it's been distilled, boiled down to essence. A simple truth hits you harder than a complicated explanation. A minimalist space feels more spacious than a mansion stuffed with things. Elegant simplicity doesn't dull the experience, it sharpens it. It reveals what's real and makes you breathe easier, focus better, feel more. The clutter isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, spiritual. When you subtract the noise, what's left is peace. And that peace has power. Complexity impresses, but simplicity moves you, it lingers, it lives longer, it ages better. The elegant is never loud, but it's unforgettable. That's the paradox. It takes a lifetime to learn how to say less and mean more. 29. Contradiction as truth. The deeper you go into truth, the more you'll find it wrapped in contradictions. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. Things that are absolutely true often sound absolutely false at first. Freedom requires discipline. Strength comes from surrender. To lead is to serve. The more you try to control life, the more it controls you. To know is to admit you don't know. These aren't word games. They're windows into reality. We live in a world built on binaries. This or that, yes or no, black or white. But the real truths live in the tension between opposites. They aren't either or, they are both, and the greatest wisdom isn't neat, it's paradoxical. That's why it stays with you. It won't fit inside a box, so it keeps unfolding. The wisest teachers speak in riddles, not to confuse you, but to wake you up. If it makes your mind stretch and twist, that's the point. A contradiction is an invitation. It asks you to look deeper, to hold two truths at once without collapsing into one or the other. The universe is full of these. Light is both a wave and a particle. Humans are both fragile and strong. We long for change and resist it. We're selfish and generous, broken and beautiful. Contradictions don't cancel truth. They complete it. They show you the layers, the dimensions, the mystery. The deepest truths can't be simplified into one side. They contain multitudes. And if that feels uncomfortable, good, real truth should shake your certainty, not soothe your ego. 30. Unanswerable questions. What is the meaning of life? Why do we suffer? What happens after we die? Questions like these don't have clear answers, and maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe they're meant to be lived, not solved. The most important questions stretch your mind and stir your soul, not because they give you clarity, but because they awaken curiosity. We're obsessed with answers. We want closure, certainty, something to hold. But life doesn't work that way. The biggest truths are not conclusions, There. Invitations. When you sit with an unanswerable question, you grow, your perspective widens, your assumptions crack, you become more human, more open, not less. The unanswerable questions are like mirrors. They show you who you are by how you wrestle with them, not what conclusions you reach. To ask is already to begin awakening. Every philosopher, every mystic, every artist sits in this space of wondering, and they don't pretend to know. They just keep asking better questions. The paradox is that the questions we can't answer often give us the most meaning. They make us humble. They connect us across time and culture. We all ask them. We all carry them. And in that shared mystery, we find belonging. Even if the questions stay open forever, they guide us, not like a map, but like a compass, pointing us inward, toward reflection, growth, and wonder. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop demanding answers and simply stay with the question, because the longer you sit with it, the more it transforms you. 31. Effortless efficiency. You achieve more by doing less, if what you do is focused, and that's the paradox most people resist. We're conditioned from early on to believe that being busy equals being productive, that filling every hour, multitasking constantly, and stretching yourself thin means you're doing it right. We glorify hustle. We chase the feeling of accomplishment through volume. But real efficiency isn't about how much you do, it's about what you choose to do. It's not about getting everything done, it's about getting the right things done, the things that actually matter, that actually move you forward. When you focus your energy on the essential, you multiply your impact without multiplying your effort. You channel your attention like a laser instead of scattering it like a flashlight, and suddenly, small actions start producing big results. Deep focus creates deep progress, and the clutter, the endless to-do lists, the false urgencies, starts to fall away. This isn't laziness, it's wisdom, it's the art of subtraction, of knowing that not everything deserves your energy. Not every task is worthy of your time. Sometimes, doing less is the most powerful thing you can do, because you're finally aligning your efforts with your values, your priorities, your purpose, and that's when you become truly effective. Less becomes more, not just in theory but in practice. You feel lighter, sharper, more alive, not burned out, but engaged, present, fulfilled. True productivity isn't found in exhaustion. It's found in clarity, in the courage to let go of the unnecessary so you can give your best to what really matters. 32. Slow equals fast. Slowing down helps you go further, and though it sounds strange, it's one of the most powerful paradoxes of progress. We live in a culture obsessed with speed. We measure success by how quickly we can get somewhere, how fast we can build, produce, accomplish. But speed without direction is just spinning in circles. It's motion without meaning, urgency without clarity. When you move too fast, you miss things. You miss details, connections, opportunities, and most importantly, you miss yourself. You become reactive, not intentional. You burn out, you stumble, you forget why you started. But when you slow down, something radical happens. You begin to notice, you begin to breathe, you move with purpose instead of panic. And paradoxically, you start making better decisions, fewer mistakes, more impact. You align your actions with your values, and your progress becomes sustainable, meaningful, deep. Slowing down doesn't mean stalling. It means settling into your rhythm, the one that actually matches your life, your pace, your needs. And this shift is where true momentum is born. Because when you're grounded, you're steady, and steady always beats scattered in the long run. Fast can be flashy, but slow is lasting. It's the discipline to be present, the courage to take your time, and the wisdom to know that growth isn't always loud. It's often quiet, deliberate, layered. Slow is not the opposite of success. It's the path to it. Slow is focus, clarity, power in disguise, and in a world racing nowhere fast, slowing down might be the bravest thing you ever do. 33. Winning by losing. You win by learning how to lose, because losing teaches you what winning never can. It strips away your ego, humbles your heart, and shows you where your real strength lies. Losing introduces you to your limitations, and that meeting, uncomfortable as it is where growth begins. People who never lose don't understand resilience, don't know how to adapt, don't know how to rebuild. But those who face loss, embrace it, and grow from it. They win in a deeper way. They become wiser, kinder, more grounded in who they are. They learn how to separate self-worth from success, how to keep showing up even when things fall apart, and in that process, they develop something unshakable, the ability to keep moving, keep learning, keep trying. Real winners aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who learn how to fall with grace and rise with purpose. Losing teaches empathy, because you've been the one who struggled, who failed, who didn't get picked. And that awareness softens the edges of judgment and pride. Losing helps you see what really matters, because when everything is stripped away, you discover what endures: your character, your will, your heart. And here's the paradox. Those who learn how to lose well often become the most unstoppable, because they've faced failure and kept going. They've redefined what it means to win, not as a destination but as a mindset, a commitment to growth. And when that becomes your compass, every loss is part of your path to something greater. 34. Wrong feels right. Sometimes the best decisions you ever make feel like they're tearing your world apart. When you take them, they don't come with fireworks, they come with fear. Quitting that job that made you good money, but killed your joy, ending the relationship that looked perfect in photos, but left your soul starving, walking away from what's familiar, even when it feels like betrayal to others. These things don't feel right at first, they feel heavy, because they go against the programming of comfort. The mind loves patterns, the heart loves memories, and the body loves routine. But growth isn't cozy, it's raw and uncertain. The caterpillar doesn't bloom into a butterfly by building a cocoon of confidence. It literally dissolves into chaos. Real change always feels like a mistake at the start, because we're stepping into the unknown. The paradox here is that our inner truth doesn't yell, it whispers, and whispers don't always feel reassuring. Sometimes your gut will say go, while everything else screams stay, and that's where courage begins. When you follow the quiet voice inside, even when it feels like you're walking into darkness, slowly you discover that what felt wrong was simply unfamiliar, and unfamiliar isn't bad, it's just untested. In hindsight, the path that terrified you reveals itself as the one that saved you, because pain can be a compass, and discomfort a doorway. And the very thing that felt like falling was actually flying. You just hadn't learned it to trust your wings yet. That's the paradox. Wrong only feels wrong because it's new, and right often feels right only because it's old. But only one leads to freedom. 35. Endless mastery. Mastery is not a destination, it's a devotion, a quiet, persistent surrender to something greater than yourself. It's not the gold medal, not the stage, not the title. Mastery lives in the shadows, in the repetition, in the days where nothing feels extraordinary, but you show up anyway. The true master is never done learning, never done refining, because mastery isn't a final form, it's an evolving dance. The more you learn, the more aware you become of what you don't know, and strangely, that's the magic. The pianist with decades of experience still practices scales. The martial artist revisits the same move 1,000 times. The master carpenter measures thrice, not because they doubt, but because they respect the craft. True mastery is born in humility. The paradox is that the better you get, the more you crave the basics. Excellence is not about doing advanced things. It's about doing the simple things so well they become invisible. Mastery is a relationship with time, patience, and boredom. It's watering the garden even when no bloom is in sight. It's trusting that your devotion is doing something unseen. Every mistake becomes a mentor, every failure a lesson. and every routine a ritual, it doesn't mean you never falter. It means you stay curious, you stay engaged, you learn and relearn with wonder. The path of mastery never ends, and that's its beauty. It's not a goalpost, it's a way of being. Mastery is the quiet joy in doing something well for the sheer love of it, not to impress, not to conquer, but to connect to that deeper part of you that says keep going, this is where you belong. 36. Detached action. Imagine putting your soul into something, giving it your full energy, passion, and focus, and then walking away without clinging to what comes next. That is detached action, and it's one of the most difficult, yet freeing things you can do. We're taught from the start that effort equals reward, that hard work brings trophies, promotions, applause, so we become addicted to outcomes. We measure our worth by results. But what if the scoreboard never lights up? What if you do everything right and still hear silence? Detached action asks you to keep going anyway, to create with devotion, not desperation, to work not for the fruits, but for the love of the tree. It's not about caring less, it's about caring in a purer way. Detached action isn't laziness, it's strength. It's doing the right thing when no one notices, choosing integrity over validation, discipline over drama. It's a paradox. The more you let go of results, the better your results become, because now your focus is clean. You're not clouded by fear or greed or ego, you're just present, fully in the process. Like a painter who forgets the gallery and just loves the brush, each moment becomes enough. You grow immune to praise and unshaken by criticism. You begin to find your power, not in what happens to your work, but in how true you were while doing it. In that detachment is clarity, and in that clarity is peace. You don't give up. You level up by learning to release, and that is the quiet strength of someone who no longer needs the world's approval to keep showing up. 37. Subtractive perfection. Perfection isn't a mountain you climb by stacking more bricks, it's a sculpture you reveal by carving away the excess. The greatest artists don't add endlessly, they stop at just enough. They strip back until all that's left is the truth, the masterpiece hiding beneath the mess. The same principle holds for our lives. We chase more goals, more possessions, more hacks, more advice, thinking that progress means piling on, but often, the most profound breakthroughs come when we remove rather than add. Removing the toxic relationship, clearing the overloaded schedule, saying no to things that once felt essential, but now feel heavy. The paradox of perfection is that it hides not in addition, but in reduction. Think of the most powerful speeches. They are often the shortest, the clearest writing, the most beautiful architecture. It's all simplicity, born not from laziness, but from ruthless editing. Subtractive perfection is about knowing what to walk away from. It's the maturity to say this no longer serves me. It's the wisdom to realize that silence is often louder than noise, and space is often more powerful than stuff. It takes more strength to let go than to hold on, more courage to delete than to keep refining. True perfection is the confidence to trust the bare essentials, to believe that what remains after the unnecessary is gone is enough, maybe even more than enough, in design, in work, in self-growth. The same truth echoes again and again. Perfection is not the fullness of everything, it is the absence of the wrong things, not the final addition, but the final subtraction that reveals the real you. 38. Gentle strength. True strength isn't loud, it doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to dominate. True strength is gentle, calm, steady. It's the ability to hold space without filling it with noise, to stand firm without pushing back. We've been taught that strength looks like control, force, domination. But the paradox is that real power doesn't clench its fists, it opens its hands. Gentle strength is the parent who listens instead of yelling, the leader who admits they don't know everything, the friend who holds you while you fall apart without trying to fix you. It's the person who walks away from drama, not because they are weak, but because they are rooted somewhere deeper. Gentle strength is a tree, not a storm. It bends, it breathes, it doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. It's patient in discomfort, kind under pressure, clear without being cruel. It takes incredible power to stay soft in a hard world, to respond without reacting, to feel deeply and still stand tall. The paradox is that the strongest people don't look strong at first glance. They look calm, they look kind, they look human, and that's their power. They aren't driven by ego or fear. They are moved by love, by purpose, by presence. Gentle strength doesn't seek credit. It offers support. It holds its ground without making others small. It doesn't dominate the room, but the room feels safer because it's there, and maybe that's the greatest strength of all. 39. Doing nothing as action. Sometimes the wisest action is no action at all. Doing nothing isn't laziness, it's discernment, restraint, clarity. We're told to hustle, to fix, to respond, to always do something, anything. But the paradox is that inaction can be the most powerful choice. When you're angry, silence is stronger than words. When you're unsure, waiting is braver than rushing. When the world is frantic, stillness is an act of rebellion. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every moment is a call to move. Sometimes wisdom is in the pause, the breath before the leap, the refusal to force what isn't ready. Doing nothing is a way of listening to what's really needed, not what ego demands. It's trust in timing, in process, in the quiet unfolding of life. Inaction gives space for truth to rise, for clarity to settle. It's stepping back so life can breathe forward. Doing nothing doesn't mean apathy, it means presence. It means being still enough to hear what matters. Sometimes it takes more strength to sit with uncertainty than to chase certainty, more power to resist the impulse than to follow it. We are not machines, we are ecosystems, and every ecosystem needs rest, stillness, seasons of dormancy. Nothingness is not the absence of life, it is the soil it grows in, the space it returns to. So next time you feel the pull to act just because you're uncomfortable, try stillness, try quiet, try doing nothing, and watch how everything begins to move. 40. Effortless flow. Your greatest efforts often don't feel like effort at all, not because you're not trying, but because you're aligned, focused, immersed. That's the paradox of flow. When you're in it, you're not forcing, you're not doubting, you're just doing, just being, fully engaged, fully alive. In the zone where time disappears, ego fades, and only the task remains. It's not about pushing harder, it's about disappearing into the work, into the moment. Flow happens when the challenge matches your skill. When the mind stops interfering and the body takes over, like the dancer who becomes the music, the writer who becomes the story, the athlete who moves before they even think. The paradox is that you get more done when you stop trying so hard, because trying is often laced with tension, with self-consciousness, with the fear of failure. But flow is pure presence. It's not that effort disappears, it transforms. It becomes effortless effort, natural, joyful, immersive. The key is not to chase flow, but to invite it, by doing the thing you love, by removing distractions, by practicing until your mind no longer needs to control every move. Flow is not about ease, it's about immersion, and when you're in it, even the hardest task becomes a kind of grace. This is where creativity lives, where mastery grows, where fulfillment hides, not in the grind, but in the surrender, not in the push, but in the merge. So let go of trying to perform, and just enter the moment, lose yourself, and find your real power there. 41. Emotional detachment. You feel better when you stop trying to feel good all the time. Strange but true. Because the constant need to feel good becomes its own kind of suffering. When we chase pleasure, avoid pain, and try to curate our emotions like a playlist, we actually create more anxiety. We become hyper-aware of every mood swing, every drop in dopamine feels like failure. But emotions are waves, not walls. They pass through us, not define us. The paradox is that peace comes not from controlling emotions, but from letting them be. Emotional detachment isn't about becoming numb, it's about becoming free. It means feeling everything without being ruled by anything. It's not suppressing sadness, but sitting with it, not denying fear, but observing it. And in that space of presence, something powerful happens. You realize that no single emotion lasts forever. Not joy, not despair, not even boredom. They all move. And when you stop chasing good feelings, you make room for real ones. You stop clinging to the highs and fearing the lows. And in that neutrality, there is peace. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you stop being consumed. You become the sky, not the weather. You hold space for joy and grief, love and loss, without needing one to win. Emotional detachment is not emptiness. It's clarity. It's choosing not to be dragged by every passing feeling, but to stand still in the storm and say, I see you, and I'll let you pass, and when you do, I'll still be here. 42 Happiness Chase Trap. Happiness slips away the moment you start chasing it. The more you make it a goal, the more it runs like a shadow, just out of reach. We think happiness is a prize we earn after success, after love, after everything is finally fixed. But happiness isn't at the finish line, it's in the stride. The paradox is that the less you need happiness, the more it shows up, quietly, softly, in the middle of ordinary moments, in a cup of tea, a small laugh, a long walk. But when you make happiness the center of your life, you miss your life. Because you're always chasing and never arriving. The world sells happiness like a product. Do this, buy that, be this, and you'll feel good forever. But real happiness isn't about feeling good all the time. It's about being present with what is, even when it's uncomfortable. It's accepting the now, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. The moment you stop asking, am I happy, and start asking, am I honest, am I kind, am I awake to this moment? That's when happiness sneaks in. Happiness is not something you chase, it's something you catch. When you stop chasing, it's the byproduct of alignment, not the goal. When your actions match your values, when your inner world feels heard, when you let yourself feel all of life, not just the shiny bits, that's when happiness comes, not with a bang, but with a breath, not as a reward, but as a friend who arrives when you stop demanding they show up. 43 Fear Confrontation. Fear is a clever liar. It tells you to run, to wait, to avoid, but the only way out is through. Fear feeds on avoidance, grows in the shadows, thrives in hesitation. But the moment you turn and walk toward it, it starts to shrink. The paradox is that the more you resist fear, the stronger it gets. But the more you confront it, the weaker it becomes. Fear wants you frozen. But courage is not the absence of fear, it's movement in the presence of it. It's saying, I'm scared, and still stepping forward. Fear is rarely about the moment, it's about what we imagine the moment will become. But when we face the thing itself, we often find it's not as big as we thought. Fear exaggerates, but action clarifies. The door we fear to open is usually the one that frees us. Whether it's a conversation, a leap, a truth we don't want to face. On the other side of fear is always growth, not always comfort, but truth and freedom and self-respect. The more you avoid what scares you, the more you abandon yourself, the more you meet it head-on, the more whole you become. Fear wants you small, but you were made for expansion. So take the step, make the call, walk into the fire, and watch how it teaches you who you really are. Not fearless, but brave, not invincible, but unstoppable. 44 Joy through sorrow. We spend so much time trying to avoid sadness, treating it like a problem, a flaw, something to fix or escape. But the paradox is that joy becomes more real, more vivid, more alive when you allow sorrow to move through you. You can't numb sadness without also dulling joy. They rise together, fall together, live together. To shut one out is to shut both out. Sorrow softens us, deepens us, teaches us how to feel with our whole being. And it's that depth that creates space for real joy, not surface pleasure, not distraction, but that kind of joy that comes with tears in your eyes and gratitude in your chest, the kind of joy that knows what it costs to feel light again. Sorrow shows you what matters. It carves out the space that joy eventually fills. When you've truly grieved, you notice sunlight differently, laughter lands deeper, love feels more sacred. The paradox is that the people who've walked through the most sorrow often carry the most contagious joy, not because they've avoided pain, but because they've allowed it, moved through it, honored it. Joy isn't the absence of sadness, it's the presence of something fuller, something honest. Allowing yourself to feel the sorrow doesn't mean you're stuck in it. It means you're alive, you're real, and when joy comes, it won't be fake, it won't be forced, it'll be a sunrise after a long storm, and it will be yours. 45 Broken not equal to defective. Feeling broken doesn't mean you are broken, and even if you are, that doesn't mean you're defective. There's a difference. Pain changes us, loss rewires us, trauma leaves scars, but none of that means you are any less whole. The paradox is that we feel most broken when we're actually growing, shifting, becoming, like bones realigning, like hearts learning to beat again. When you feel broken, it means something inside you knows things can't stay the same. It's a signal, not a sentence, but we've been taught that pain equals weakness, that struggle means we're failing, so we hide it, deny it, numb it, and that only makes us feel worse. Being broken doesn't make you unworthy, it makes you human, beautifully, tenderly human. Even machines break, and they don't cry about it, they just stop. But you keep going, even with the cracks, especially with the cracks. You show up, feel, try, fall, try again. That's not failure. That's resilience. Your broken parts are not shameful, they are sacred. They are evidence that you've lived, that you've loved, that you've lost and dared to care anyway. Healing doesn't mean erasing the break, it means honoring it, learning from it, growing stronger at the exact place you once split. Like a tree that leans toward light after a storm bent its trunk, not straight, but beautiful. You are not defective, you are healing in progress, and there is no shame in that. 46 The Cracked Heart. We fear heartbreak like it's the end of us, but the paradox is that sometimes a heart must be fully broken to truly heal, not shattered for destruction, but cracked wide open for light to get in. When the heart breaks, it stretches, it softens, it sheds what it no longer needs, and what feels like the end is often a beginning. The cracked heart is not a weakness, it's a doorway, an invitation to feel deeper, love wiser, live fuller. It doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair, it means you're breaking beyond illusion. The walls you built to stay safe collapse, and suddenly everything is raw, vulnerable, real, and that's terrifying. But it's also the only place real healing begins. Healing doesn't come from sealing the cracks, it comes from sitting in them, breathing in them, letting them reshape you. When your heart breaks, it reveals what mattered most, and in that grief, you find your values, your strength, your truth. Heartbreak strips you of what's false, what's fragile, what was never really yours, and what remains is something stronger, not harder, but braver. A cracked heart has room for more love, not less, because it's been emptied of illusion. Now it can hold truth. You don't grow a new heart after heartbreak, you grow into the one you already had, the one deep beneath the armor, the one built to carry pain and joy together. So don't fear the crack, it's where the healing starts, it's where the light gets in, and it's where the real you begins to rise. 47 Calm in the storm. Peace doesn't mean the chaos is gone. It means you're not ruled by it anymore. We think peace is a perfect day, clear skies, no noise, no stress, no mess. But that version of peace is a fantasy. Life never stops moving, never stops challenging. And the paradox is, real peace is found not in the absence of storms, but in the ability to stand calmly in the middle of them. Chaos will always exist. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. Emotions will flare. But peace is the still point. Inside, the eye of the storm, where you take a breath and remember who you are, peace is not external, it's internal. It's the part of you that observes, not reacts, that slows down instead of spirals. It's the deep exhale, the inner anchor. When everything else is pulling at your attention, you don't find this calm by controlling the world. You find it by loosening your grip, letting things unfold, not because you don't care, but because you know panic doesn't fix the storm, it fuels it. Peace is strength in stillness, not avoidance. It's your ability to feel it all and not drown, to stay present without losing yourself. The chaos can rage, but you remain grounded, not because you're invincible, but because you've learned to be still. And the more you practice finding calm within, the less the outside world can shake you. It doesn't mean the waves won't come, it means you know how to breathe through them, ride them, even dance with them, and in doing so, you become the calm others anchor to, the steady presence in a swirling sea. That's not weakness, that's mastery, that's what real strength looks like in motion. 48. The only way out. When life hurts, our instinct is to run, to avoid, to numb, to find a shortcut. But the paradox is, the only way out is through, not around, not above, but directly through the heart of it. The pain, the fear, the truth you don't want to face, that's the path, and anything else is just a loop, delay, denial dressed as comfort. But comfort can trap you if it keeps you from growing. The way out is into the discomfort, into the shadow, into the part of yourself you've been avoiding. It's not a punishment, it's a passage. Every storm you walk through teaches you how to stand, how to bend, how to trust your feet again. Healing doesn't happen by skipping the hard chapters, it happens by reading every line, feeling every ache, and walking forward anyway. This is the hero's path, not in the movies, but in real life. The person who chooses to face what's hard instead of fleeing. The strength is not in pretending you're fine. It's in moving through the fire and coming out changed, not burned, but refined. If you keep trying to escape the hard parts of life, they'll keep chasing you. But when you stop, turn around, and walk into them, something incredible happens. The monster becomes a mirror, the pain becomes a teacher, and the fear becomes freedom. The only way out is through, and through is where you become who you're meant to be. It's in the cracking open, the falling apart, the standing back up, the decision to show up with your whole heart. Again and again, through is messy, but it's honest. Through is painful, but it's powerful. And once you've walked through, no one can take that from you. It's yours, and it made you more real than ever before. 49. Pain as humanity. Pain has a way of making us feel broken, weak, less than. But the paradox is, pain doesn't strip away your humanity, it reveals it. Your pain isn't proof that you're failing, it's proof that you're alive, connected, capable of feeling deeply. Pain isn't a defect, it's a thread that ties you to the rest of the world. We all carry it, even if we hide it. It's what makes you empathetic, what softens your edges, what allows you to say to someone else, I understand, I've been there. Pain humbles us, slows us down, brings us face to face with our limits. And that's not weakness, that's sacred. In a world that celebrates strength, perfection, and performance, we forget that vulnerability is what opens hearts, that cracks are where the light comes in, and pain is what teaches us how to truly be with one another. When you let yourself feel it, without judgment, without shame, you begin to see its purpose. Pain isn't just something to survive. It's something that shapes, deepens, refines you. Grow compassion because you've suffered, you grow kindness because you've been hurt, you grow gentleness because you've needed it yourself. Pain makes us more real, more honest, more whole, not because we enjoy it, but because we learn from it. Pain is not the end of your story, it's part of your becoming, and the more you let it touch you, the more you realize you are not broken, you are beautifully, deeply human. And it's in that pain that you begin to see clearly, to connect fully, to live truly, not despite the pain, but because of it. 50. Resist nothing. We think that resisting pain will protect us, that if we push it away, ignore it, distract ourselves from it, it'll disappear. But the paradox is, the more we resist pain, the more it grows. Resistance feeds it, strengthens it, keeps it alive. Pain is like quicksand. The harder you fight, the deeper you sink. But when you stop struggling, when you surrender, something unexpected happens. It loosens, it shifts, it loses power. Not because the pain is gone, but because you've stopped giving it your energy. Pain is part of life, resistance is optional, and suffering, most of the time, is born from that resistance. When you say, I shouldn't feel this shouldn't be happening, I can't handle this, you're not fighting the pain, you're fighting reality, and that's a battle you'll always lose. But when you soften into the moment, when you say, this hurts, but I will sit with it, I will breathe through it, I will let it move through me, you reclaim your power, you become the space around the pain, not the pain itself. And in that space, something begins to shift. The pain becomes less sharp, less scary, less controlling. It still exists, but it no longer owns you. Resisting nothing doesn't mean accepting everything forever. It means starting with what's real. Before you can heal it, you have to feel it, without the shield, without the fight, without the fear. And once you do, you find that you're stronger than the pain. Because you are no longer feeding it, you are watching it, holding it, letting it come and go like waves on the shore. This is how healing begins, not with a battle, but with a breath, not with resistance, but with surrender. 51. Lovable independence. You're most lovable when you don't need to be loved. It sounds backwards, but it's true. When you stop chasing approval, stop molding yourself to fit someone else's expectations, stop anxiously performing for affection, you begin to radiate something powerful: authenticity, presence, peace. The paradox is that love clings to those who are free, because their love is a gift, not a transaction. When you need to be loved to feel whole, your energy says, please complete me, please validate me, and that energy repels the very closeness you crave. But when you love yourself first, when you find peace in your own skin, you create space for love to land naturally. No pressure, no desperation, just presence. Lovable independence doesn't mean you isolate. It means you show up whole. It means you can share without clinging, give without expectation, connect without losing yourself. And that's magnetic. Because people feel safe around someone who isn't trying to be saved. You don't need to perform, or fix, or beg, or shrink. You just are, and that's enough. It's in that grounded independence that love flows best, freely, openly, honestly, not because you demanded it, but because you invited it by being real. And when someone chooses to love you not because you need it, but because you're simply a joy to be around, that love runs deep. It's rooted in truth, not fear, in trust, not attachment. And that's the kind of love that lasts. 52. Space for closeness. We think closeness comes from constant contact, from always being near, always checking in, always saying something. But the paradox is, closeness actually grows in space. Love deepens in the pauses, in the silence, in the room to breathe. Intimacy needs air, not pressure. Connection isn't about cling, it's about trust. When you give someone space, you give them freedom, and freedom is the soil where real closeness grows. Space doesn't mean absence. It means presence without control. It's a love That says I see you, I trust you, and I don't need to hover over you to keep you. When people feel free, they return by choice, not by obligation. And that's where real connection lies, not in the fear of losing someone, but in the joy of letting them be fully themselves. Closeness isn't built by eliminating distance, it's built by holding space through it, through time, change, growth. Your partner, your friend, your family, they're on their own journeys. And honoring that isn't cold, it's deeply loving. Space allows reflection, allows missing, allows longing to ripen. And when you reunite, it's not routine, it's real. Space lets each person keep their fire burning, so that when they meet again, there's warmth to share, not smoke to suffocate in. Closeness without space is neediness, but closeness with space is sacred. It's the kind of love that breathes, evolves, and doesn't fear silence, because it knows the bond is still there, even in the quiet. 53 Mirror of compassion. You understand others best not when you analyze them, judge them, or try to fix them, but when you stop judging yourself. That's the paradox. The more compassion you offer inward, the more clearly you can see others, without distortion, without projection. Your inner world is a lens, and if that lens is filled with shame, criticism, and self-rejection, that's what gets reflected outward. When you're hard on yourself, you become hard on others. Not because you want to be, but because your heart is tense, armored, trying to protect itself. But when you begin to soften inside, when you meet your own wounds with gentleness, with patience, with presence, something changes. You no longer need people to be perfect. You no longer take everything personally. You start seeing pain instead of offense, fear instead of arrogance, hurt instead of hostility. The mirror of compassion turns outward only after it's been turned inward. And when it does, empathy flows effortlessly. You stop needing to label people as good or bad. You start seeing the whole messy picture, and in doing so, you relate better, listen deeper, judge slower, heal faster. The irony is, the more you try to be good without loving yourself, the more brittle your goodness becomes. But when you hold your own humanity with care, you naturally offer the same to others. Compassion becomes not a practice, but a posture, not a strategy, but a state of being. And from that place, understanding isn't hard, it's automatic. 54 Power of vulnerability. Vulnerability feels risky. It feels like exposure, like standing in the open without armor. And everything in you says don't do it, hide, protect, be strong. But the paradox is, vulnerability is strength. Vulnerability is the true path to connection. When you let someone see your real heart, not the filtered version, not the polished one, but the messy, scared, hopeful, honest heart, that's when they feel safe to do the same. We think people connect to our strength, but they connect to our softness, to the cracks, to the courage it takes to be seen as we are. Vulnerability doesn't mean spilling everything, it means sharing what's true, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable, it's saying I need help, it's saying I'm scared, it's saying I care. And that honesty is electric, because it breaks through the walls we build. When you're vulnerable, you stop performing and start relating. And that's when real connection begins, not the surface kind, but the kind that sticks, the kind that heals. People don't need you to be perfect, they need you to be present. And that only happens when you drop the mask. You can't connect if you're always protecting. And the irony is, when you open up, you become more trusted, not less, more respected, not less, because realness is rare, and rare things are valuable. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's your truest form of power. 55 The gift loop. We're told to give expecting nothing in return, and yet, when we give freely, without keeping score, without waiting for payback, the universe responds in ways we can't predict. The paradox is, the less you grip the outcome, the more life gives back, not always in the same form, but always in surprising ways. When you give from joy, not obligation, when you offer your time, your energy, your love, just because it feels right. Something beautiful happens. You become open, receptive, abundant. Giving shifts your energy from lack to plenty, from fear to trust, and in that space, you start to receive things that can't be forced. Support shows up when you need it, kindness meets you where you're weary, inspiration returns when you feel empty. Giving doesn't deplete you when it comes from a full place, it expands you, and that expansion makes room for more to flow in. We think holding tight keeps us safe, but it only closes the channel. Generosity isn't just about charity, it's about energy. When you give love, you receive love. When you share peace, you create peace. It's a loop, a rhythm, a dance between what you offer and what life reflects back. The moment you stop giving to get, and just give to give, you've stepped into real abundance. 56. Unforced loyalty. Loyalty can't be demanded, it has to be offered, and the paradox is, the more you try to force it, the more it slips away. True loyalty grows in freedom, not pressure, not fear, not control. When people feel trusted, respected, and seen, they stay, they commit, not out of duty, but out of choice, and that choice is what makes the bond strong. Loyalty born from fear isn't loyalty, it's survival, it's fragile, it cracks under tension. But loyalty that's chosen, freely and consciously, is rooted. Real, unshakable. When you let people go if they need to go, they are more likely to return. When you stop testing someone's loyalty, you give them space to prove it. And if they don't, that's not your failure, that's their truth. The paradox is, the most loyal people are drawn to those who don't beg for it, but who live in integrity, who lead by example, who show up consistently, and let that be enough. Loyalty is not about chains. It's about alignment, about shared values, about the quiet understanding that you can count on each other, not because you have to, but because you want to. And that kind of loyalty can't be bought, can't be forced, and once it's earned, it's one of the rarest, most beautiful things you'll ever know. 57. Mask less intimacy. Real intimacy begins where performance ends. As long as you're playing a role, wearing a mask, or trying to be liked, the connection stays shallow. It might look like closeness, but underneath, it's just two people performing for each other, afraid to be truly seen. True intimacy begins when the masks fall away. When you stop trying to impress, stop trying to be perfect, stop hiding the parts you think are too messy to be loved. That's when real connection starts to grow. It's in the unpolished moments, the awkward silences, the shared fears and little confessions that something deep begins to form. It's scary to be seen fully, but it's also the only way to be loved fully. You can't receive love for who you are if you're pretending to be someone else. When you stop performing, you give someone the chance to love the real you, not the polished version, but the honest one. Real intimacy feels soft and sharp at the same time. It challenges your pride, but soothes your heart. It asks for presence, for truth, for patience. And when both people drop their masks, something rare happens. They meet each other as they really are. In a world full of filters, real is rare. But real is magnetic. People crave honesty more than perfection. The moment you drop the act, something opens. The space between you softens. The connection deepens. Love becomes less about impressing and more about belonging. And here's the paradox: when you stop trying so hard to be loved, you actually become more lovable. Because love lives where the masks come off. Not in perfection, but in presence. Not in performance, but in truth. That's where real intimacy begins and where it lasts. 58. Love to be loved. We spend so much time hoping to be loved. Hoping someone will see us, choose us, and value us. But the strange and beautiful truth is, you become lovable by loving. Not by begging for love, not by chasing it, but by offering it freely. That's the paradox. The more love you give, the more love comes back to you. Not always in the way you expect, but often in the way you need. Loving doesn't make you weak. It makes you radiant. It makes you open, human, alive. When you love others not to get something, but just because it's who you are, you light something up in them. You make space for them to soften, to trust, and to give back. People are drawn to warmth. And love, freely given, is the warmest force there is. We think love should be earned. That we have to prove our worth, be good enough, attractive enough, interesting enough. But love doesn't follow those rules. It isn't a trophy. It's a mirror. It reflects what you bring. And when you show up with care, with kindness, with real attention, the kind that listens without interrupting and gives without expecting, people feel that. And they remember it. To be lovable, be love. Not the loud kind that needs to be noticed, but the quiet kind that notices others. That holds space. That forgives. That shows up. That stays soft in a hard world. Here's the paradox again: the more you love, the less you need love to prove your worth. And somehow, that makes people love you even more. Because love is not something you take. It's something you become. And when you become it, you realize you were always worthy of it. That's the kind of love that doesn't fade. It grows. 59. Freedom in connection. We often think love is about holding on, about keeping someone close, about wrapping them in promises and expectations. But real connection doesn't need to be clutched. It needs to breathe. The deeper kind of love says, I trust you to be free. It feels counterintuitive, but the more space you give someone, the more they may want to come closer. Control pushes people away. Freedom invites them in. When you let someone be fully themselves, messy, complicated, and ever-changing, you give them the rare gift of being truly seen without being shaped. When connection isn't a cage, it becomes a sanctuary. It's not about making someone stay. It's about creating a space so open, so safe, and so real that they want to stay. You stop needing them to fill your gaps. You start celebrating their own path, their own choices. And ironically, that makes the connection even stronger. Freedom says, I don't own you. I walk with you, not around you. I support you without scripting you. That kind of love is magnetic because it asks nothing but offers everything: trust, respect, and presence. This kind of connection might scare you at first, because it doesn't come with guarantees. But what it offers instead is honesty. And honesty is the root of everything lasting. The paradox is this: when you let go of holding someone too tightly, you hold space for something deeper. And the more they feel that freedom, the more they may choose, again and again, to stay. 60. Open heart armor. It sounds backwards. To protect your heart, you must open it. We're taught that protection means walls, distance, and cool detachment. But walls don't just keep pain out. They keep joy out, too. Every time you close off, you might feel safer, but you also feel lonelier. You might avoid the sting, but you also miss the warmth. And over time, the armor gets heavier than the wounds ever were. The truth is, real strength is softness. Real courage is vulnerability. An open heart doesn't mean you invite harm, it means you allow connection. It means you say, I know I might get hurt, but I choose love anyway. Opening your heart means letting yourself be moved, be touched, be seen. It means showing up without certainty and still choosing to care. And that kind of openness builds something walls never can: trust, intimacy, belonging. Here's the twist: the heart that stays open becomes stronger, not weaker. Because it learns to bend instead of break. It learns to feel without drowning. It learns to love without losing itself. Pain may still come. Disappointment may still happen. But the heart that stays open knows how to heal, because it's filled with life, not locked behind armor. To protect your heart, let it feel. Let it love. Let it risk. Because an open heart is a living one. And that's the bravest kind of protection there is. 61 Rush equals waste. The more you rush, the more you waste time. It sounds backwards, but think about it. When you rush, you make mistakes. You forget things. You redo things. You miss the moment. And all that time you thought you were saving? It slips right through your fingers. Rushing creates a false sense of urgency. It tricks you into thinking faster is always better. But some of the most important things in life conversations, creativity, healing can't be rushed. They take the time they take. And when you force them, you don't speed them up. You ruin them. We live in a world that praises speed. Fast food. Fast money. Fast success. But if you really look at the things that matter, trust, love, mastery, peace, they are always slow-cooked. They build over time. They ask for patience. They unfold, not explode. When you rush, your focus scatters. Your breath shortens. Your energy leaks. You move quickly, but without presence. Without precision. And often, you end up doing twice the work to fix what you broke in a hurry. But when you slow down, something shifts. You become more aware. You breathe deeper. You move with intention. Mistakes shrink. Moments expand. And time, strangely, feels like it stretches. So the paradox stands: rushing wastes time. Slowing down gives it back. Life isn't a race. It's a rhythm. And when you stop sprinting, you start dancing. The next time you feel the urge to rush, pause. Ask yourself, am I moving fast or just running away? Because more often than not, the fastest path to what you want is the one walked with patience, presence, and care. 62 Now is forever. The present moment is all we ever truly have. The past is gone. The future hasn't arrived. But this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this flicker of awareness is alive. And yet, even as you notice it, it's gone. That's the paradox. Now is eternal, and yet it's always disappearing. Time is strange. It moves in one direction, but we live it in loops, replaying the past, rehearsing the future. We think of now as a small sliver between two bigger things. But in truth, now is the only place where life actually happens. Everything else is imagination or memory. When you're truly in the present, something amazing happens. Worry fades. Regret softens. You see clearly, without the fog of what was or what might be. You notice the small things: a smile, a shadow, the way your chest rises when you breathe. Life becomes vivid, detailed, real. But it's hard to stay here. The mind loves to run into stories, fears, plans, distractions. That's okay. The practice is not to force yourself to stay still forever. It's to return, again and again, to gently come back to now, to this sip of tea, this sound, this sensation. Now is a doorway not just to peace, but to truth. Because when you're present, you're honest. You can't fake your way through the moment you're actually living. So here's the paradox: the present moment is always here, and always slipping away. You can't hold it, but you can live in it. And the more you live in it, the more life becomes what it truly is: enough. 63 Future in the now. We're told to plan for the future, to look ahead, set goals, build strategies. But here's the paradox: the best way to change the future is to focus on the now. Not the imagined someday, but the living, breathing moment right in front of you. When you pay full attention to what you're doing now, the way you speak, the way you move, the choices you make, you're not ignoring the future. You're shaping it. Every small act done with awareness creates ripples. Every decision grounded in presence carries weight. Think of the future not as a distant destination, but as something you're building with every breath. The words you say today become the tone of your relationships tomorrow. The habits you practice today become the character you carry into the next chapter. We waste so much energy worrying about what might happen. But when we worry, we're not acting. We're not creating. We're not living. We're just looping. The mind spins, but the life stays still. Instead, ground yourself. Feel your feet. Take a breath. Ask, what's one thing I can do now that aligns with who I want to become? Then do that. Not perfectly, just presently. The future is made out of now. If you want peace later, practice peace now. If you want love later, offer love now. If you want change, begin it now. Not next week. Not tomorrow. Now. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing the future, you start creating it. Right here, in this ordinary moment that holds everything. 64 Life in death. To live fully, you must accept death. It sounds dark, but it's the opposite. It's liberating. Because when you stop running from death, you start running toward life. You stop waiting for some distant moment to begin living, and you start now. And in doing so, life becomes richer, deeper, more awake. Death gives life its urgency, its sharpness, its meaning. Without the shadow of the end, we'd drift. We'd delay. We'd never feel the need to say I love you today, or chase the dream now. Knowing it all ends one day makes what you do today matter more. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means waking up. It means realizing that each moment is precious precisely because it doesn't last. It means loving deeper, laughing louder, being more honest, because time is not endless. It's not about obsessing over death, it's about letting death sharpen your appreciation for life. Most people live like they'll never die, rushing through days, missing the moments. But when you let death into your awareness, you begin to savor. You begin to choose what matters. You let go of small things. You forgive. You speak your truth. You start living like time matters because it does. Ironically, death teaches you how to live. Not in fear, but in freedom. You stop chasing more and start appreciating enough. You stop holding back and start showing up. You realize that this moment right now might be the last time you hug someone, or hear their voice, or see the sun paint the sky. And suddenly, that moment becomes everything. Death gives life its edge. It reminds us that everything is a gift. That the people we love won't always be here. That we won't either. And somehow, that reminder makes us love harder, live braver, and laugh louder. It makes us say the things we were saving for later. Because later may never come. So to live, really live, accept that death is part of it. And let that truth make you softer, kinder, more courageous, and more awake to the life that's right here, right now. 65 Becoming Loop. You're always becoming, but never complete. That's the strange beauty of being human. You're constantly growing, shifting, evolving. But you never quite arrive. Because the destination keeps changing. And so do you. You are a river, not a statue. You're in motion, not fixed in place. Every time you learn something new, life gives you something else to unlearn. Every time you grow stronger, life offers a new kind of challenge. Just when you think you've got it figured out, the game changes again. And again. And again. But this isn't failure. This is the dance. Becoming isn't about arriving at perfection. It's about embracing the unfolding. You are not a finished product. You are a living process. A mosaic that keeps shifting. A melody still being written. This can feel frustrating to never feel done. To never check the box and say, I've made it. But it's also freeing. Because you never run out of chances. You're never stuck. Every breath is a new beginning. Every mistake is part of the pattern. Every ending holds the seed of something beginning. We want to feel finished, complete, final. But that's not where life lives. Life lives in the becoming. In the questions. In the stretch. In the willingness to begin again. And again. And again. Here's the paradox: you're already enough, even as you continue to grow. You're whole and unfinished at the same time. A masterpiece that's still being painted. You're a seed and a tree at once. You're both the question and the answer, always unfolding. Becoming isn't something you ever stop doing. It's what you're made of. And the most alive people are the ones who keep growing, keep learning, keep becoming, no matter how far they've come. 66 time stretch. Time expands when you're truly present. A single minute of full awareness can feel like an hour. A day lost in distraction feels like a blink. Presence doesn't add hours to your clock, but it adds life to your hours. That's the paradox. The more you show up, the more time opens up. Presence stretches time. Not literally, but experientially. It deepens it, slows it, fills it. When you're fully here, even the smallest moments feel full: a sip of coffee, a glance, a breeze. Suddenly, a single breath carries weight. A shared silence feels sacred. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. We live in a world that rushes. We check the time constantly, but we rarely feel it. We move fast, but we rarely arrive. And in that rush, time slips through our fingers. The faster we try to move through time, the less of it we truly experience. But something amazing happens when you slow down and pay attention. Time starts to breathe. Your moments stretch open. And life stops being a blur. You step out of the timeline and into timelessness. Into the now, the only place where life actually happens. Have you ever had a conversation that made hours feel like minutes? Or a walk in nature that felt eternal? That's the stretch. That's the richness that presence brings. It's not about how long something lasts, it's about how deeply you live it. When you're here, really here, you live more life in less time. Not because you do more, but because you experience more. Time becomes less about the clock and more about connection, sensation, truth. You remember more, feel more, live more. So the paradox is this: if you want more time, stop rushing. Stop multitasking. Stop chasing minutes. Start inhabiting them. Because the more present you are, the longer time seems to last. And in that stretch, you don't just find more time, you find yourself. 67 missed by chasing. Chasing life makes you miss it. We sprint after success, happiness, meaning, always in motion, always reaching. But in the rush, we overlook what's already here. The irony is, the more we chase life, the more it slips through our fingers. We chase because we're told that life is out there somewhere, over the next hill, after the next goal, hidden inside the next achievement. But the more we run, the more distant life feels. It becomes a horizon we can never quite touch. And in that endless pursuit, we miss the beauty of the path we're on. When we chase, we live in the future. In the what's next. In the not quite yet. And while we fixate on some distant peak, we forget to look around. We miss the wildflowers on the path. The laughter in the background. The peace of this moment, right now. Life isn't something you catch. It's something you notice. Something you feel when you slow down enough to actually be where you are. In the smile of a stranger, the warmth of a cup of tea, the quiet between two heartbeats. Sometimes, what we're chasing is already here, we're just moving too fast to see it. And that's the paradox. The harder you try to grasp life, the more it slips away. But when you stop chasing and simply show up, life shows up too. So stop. Breathe. Look around. Life is not waiting at the end of your race. It's waiting inside the stillness you've been running from. And once you see that, you'll realize you were never behind. You were just too busy chasing to notice you were already home. 68 Saving equals losing time. In trying to save time, we often lose it. We multitask. We cut corners. We rush. But what are we saving time for, if not to live it? That's the paradox. We try to get more out of time, only to lose the richness of what time actually gives. We chase efficiency like it's the key to happiness. Faster meals. Faster messages. Faster everything. But life isn't meant to be microwaved. It's meant to be simmered. Felt. Tasted. Experienced. And when we prioritize speed, we sacrifice presence. Efficiency has its place, sure. But if every moment is a race, we forget to breathe. Forget to connect. Forget to be. Some of our richest memories, a deep conversation, a long walk, a slow morning, are the ones that feel the least productive. And yet, they're the most alive. When you try to save time, you often cram more in. But the soul doesn't move at high speed. Meaning doesn't happen on a tight schedule. The best parts of life take time and give time. Time isn't a problem to solve. It's a space to fill. Not with more tasks, but with more life. So next time you feel rushed, ask yourself, what am I really saving time for? And what am I missing by saving it? Because the truth is, time is already moving fast. The more you try to beat it, the more it beats you. But when you stop, when you breathe, when you live inside the moment instead of squeezing it, you stop losing time. And you start living it. 69 Death as birth. Every ending births a beginning. We fear endings, goodbyes, breakups, the final page. But every end is a doorway. A clearing. A sacred space where something new can grow. We resist change because we want certainty. We hold on, even when something is finished. But nature shows us the truth: the leaf must fall for the tree to grow new ones. The caterpillar must die for the butterfly to emerge. The seed must break for the sprout to rise. Death isn't just the end of life. It's the end of chapters, of identities, of ways of being. And while it can hurt deeply, it's also how we transform. Every version of you that you've left behind has made space for the person you are now. Grief is real. Letting go is hard. But within the ashes, there is always something stirring. Some whisper of renewal. Some light trying to return. When something ends, a job, a relationship, a belief, ask not just what you've lost, but what you've made room for. Because death clears space. And in that space, new life begins. The paradox is this: the more we accept death, the more we make peace with life. We stop clinging. We start trusting. We let go of what no longer fits and step into the unknown with open hands. Every goodbye carries the seed of hello. Every sunset makes space for dawn. Every ending, though painful, is the beginning of something we can't yet imagine, something only possible because of what ended. 70 Wasting to value. To appreciate time, you must occasionally waste it. That's the paradox. The moments that seem unproductive, watching clouds, staring at the ceiling, lying in the grass, often remind us what time really is. Not a schedule, not a task, but a gift. In a world obsessed with doing, rest looks like failure. But real rest, real idleness, is nourishment. It's the space where thoughts settle, where creativity bubbles, where peace enters quietly, unforced. When every second is optimized, time becomes a burden. But when we allow ourselves to simply be unproductive, aimless, still we meet time again as a friend, not a clock. Think of your favorite moments. Chances are, they weren't efficient. They weren't rushed. They were slow, spontaneous, full of breath and laughter and warmth. That's not wasted time. That's sacred time. Sometimes, doing nothing is the most valuable thing you can do. It reminds you that your worth isn't tied to your output, that your being is enough, that life isn't just about progress, it's about presence. So take the long walk with no destination. Watch the sunset with no agenda. Let yourself get bored. That boredom might be the doorway to joy, to stillness, to remembering who you are beneath the busy. Time wasted with love, with wonder, with curiosity is never truly wasted. It's where meaning grows. And when you waste a little time, you realize how precious it is. You stop rushing. You start treasuring. And in that shift, time becomes not just something you use but something you feel. 71 Meaning by release. You find meaning by letting go of needing meaning. That's the paradox. The more desperately you seek a purpose, the more elusive it becomes. The tighter you grip your need for significance, the more anxious and hollow you feel. But when you stop forcing meaning, life begins to reveal it quietly, naturally, in its own time. We're taught to chase purpose, to have a mission, a plan, a reason for everything. But this pressure to find meaning can become a burden. It turns life into a riddle to be solved instead of a mystery to be lived. But here's the truth: some of the most meaningful moments in life aren't planned. They aren't logical. They aren't grand. They are small, soft, surprising. A shared glance, a kind gesture, a quiet sunrise. When you let go of your need to find meaning, you make space for it to find you. You stop interrogating life and start experiencing it. You relax your grip, and meaning flows in through the cracks. Meaning isn't a fixed thing. It's a living thing. It changes, shifts, grows with you. And often, it appears when you're not looking, in the ordinary, the unexpected, and the now. So the paradox is this: when you stop chasing purpose like a prize, you begin to live on purpose. When you stop demanding answers, life begins to whisper them. And when you finally release the pressure to figure it all out, you begin to feel what it means to be truly alive. 72 Ego Transcendence. To transcend the ego, you must face it fully. You can't bypass it, suppress it, or pretend it's not there. The ego loses its power not when you fight it, but when you see it clearly. When you witness its games, the pride, the fear, the craving for validation, and choose not to be ruled by them. The ego is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you where you're still clinging, still seeking approval, still afraid of being seen. It's the voice that says you're not enough or that you're better than everyone else. It's not wrong. It's just scared. And to transcend it, you must first understand it. Many people try to destroy the ego, to crush it or rise above it. But that's just ego in disguise. Real transcendence isn't a war. It's a softening, a turning inward. A curious look at your own reflection with kindness, not judgment. When you face the ego with awareness, it begins to relax. It stops shouting. It stops grasping. And something deeper begins to emerge, something quieter, more grounded, more true. The self beneath the self. The stillness beneath the story. Transcending the ego doesn't mean losing your personality or ambition. It means no longer being owned by them. It means acting from love instead of fear. From wholeness instead of lack. From truth instead of performance. So the paradox is this: to go beyond the ego, you must go through it. You must meet it, see it, and understand it. And only then can you choose something greater. 73. Faith beyond sight. Faith begins where certainty ends. It's not about having all the answers. It's about moving forward even when the path is hidden. Faith is stepping into the unknown with a quiet trust that something will catch you, not because you see it, but because you feel it. We crave control, proof, guarantees. But life rarely gives them. The most important things, love, growth, healing, can't be proven in advance. They require a leap, a letting go, a belief in what isn't yet visible. Faith isn't blind. It's brave. It's not about denying reality, it's about daring to trust something deeper than logic. A whisper inside. A feeling. A knowing that doesn't live in the mind, but in the soul. There comes a point where thinking can't take you further. Where maps fail and formulas fall short. That's where faith begins. In the silence. In the not knowing. In the courage to say yes anyway. Faith doesn't erase fear, it walks with it. It's the light you carry into the dark. The hand you hold when you're unsure. It's what allows you to move, even when you can't yet see where. So the paradox is this: faith is not the absence of doubt, but the decision to trust anyway. To stand in the fog and still take a step. To let go of certainty and step into something greater than proof, something alive. 74. Cosmic intimacy. The universe is both indifferent and intimate. It doesn't know your name, and yet, somehow, it feels like it speaks directly to you. That's the paradox. You are a speck in an infinite cosmos, and yet, when you look up at the stars, it feels like they're looking back. The sky is vast, ancient, and silent. It doesn't bend for you. It doesn't answer your prayers in thunder or lightning. It moves on with or without you. But sometimes, in the stillness of night, under a blanket of stars, you feel something like a presence, like a whisper, like being seen. How can a universe so vast feel so personal? How can something that spans billions of light years echo so deeply in your chest? Maybe it's because you are made of it. The carbon in your bones. The iron in your blood. The same atoms that once danced in stars now dance inside you. You are not separate from the universe, you are a part of it. And that's what makes the indifference so beautiful. It's not about you, and yet, you are it. And when you gaze at the cosmos with awe, that awe is the universe noticing itself. Cosmic intimacy is not about control. It's not about the universe knowing your plans. It's about the quiet connection between your tiny life and infinite space. The way a sunset moves you. The way silence speaks. The way the cosmos mirrors your wonder. So yes, the universe is indifferent but also intimate. Not because it bends to your will, but because you belong to it. You're not just in the universe. The universe is in you. Every breath, every thought, every emotion, all woven from cosmic dust and ancient starlight. Even if the stars don't know your name, you know theirs. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to make the whole universe feel personal. 75. Cosmic paradox. You are both insignificant and infinitely valuable. On the scale of galaxies, you are a flicker, a blip, a momentary arrangement of atoms floating in a vast, uncaring cosmos. And yet, to someone, somewhere, you are the center of the universe. This is the cosmic paradox. From one view, your existence is statistically meaningless. From another, it is utterly irreplaceable. And both are true. You are stardust scattered and reformed through eons of cosmic chaos. The atoms in your body were born in stars that exploded long before Earth existed. You are the product of randomness, of time, of gravity and light. And yet, you love. You laugh. You create beauty. You wonder. You hold a child. You whisper "I love you" in the dark. And in that moment, that ordinary, infinite moment, you are the most important being in the universe. We often feel small when we look up at the stars. But small is not the same as meaningless. Your smallness is what makes your life so precious. The brevity of your time, the fragility of your body, the finiteness of your days, these are what make your choices matter. In a universe that doesn't need you, you still get to shape meaning. You get to choose kindness. You get to create joy. You get to make art, share love, and change someone's world. So yes, you are a grain of sand on the beach of time, and you are also the entire ocean of someone's experience. You are a miracle wrapped in stardust. You are cosmic and personal, vast and tender. You are nothing and everything. That's the paradox. You matter because you are here. You matter because you feel. You matter because you love, in a universe that doesn't require it, and that makes it all the more profound.